And we're live. Hello and welcome to the second installment of our new AI for Business live stream series by Thoughtbot. My name is Ferdia. I'm a senior product designer here at Thoughtbot, and I'm going to be taking you through this series for the next couple of months. This series is a little bit different from our other live stream series, AI in Focus. This is going to be kind of like a sort of a bite-sized lunch and learn. So we're going to try to keep each stream to around 15 to 30 minutes. So it'll be nice and short each week and hopefully not too cognitively demanding. We're also going to try to keep it fairly light, okay? So there won't be any really kind of heavy technical definitions or things like that. It's more about trying to look at AI from a strategic sort of product or business point of view. I'm going to be hosting this series each week, and I'll be joined by some of my amazing teammates along the way, just to ask questions and kind of break up my soliloquy a little bit. This week, Sammy is very kindly taking the time to join. Do you want to introduce yourself, Sammy?
Yeah, thank you so much. Sammy Birnbaum, as the name says. I'm a senior developer at Thoughtbot, based out of London. Looking forward to being a co-host with you. And what vibes on that intro music, by the way. I love that.
Very energetic for 10 a.m., yeah.
Yeah, it was
Get
great.
the people going.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, thanks, Sammy. Yeah, and just feel free to jump in with any questions. And likewise, if anyone's watching this live, feel free to drop us questions and we'll try to address them as we go. Cool. So let's just briefly touch on, again, just an overview of the series in case anyone missed the stream from last week. Last week we explained kind of, I suppose, the series in general, a bit of an overview, and we looked at the history of AI. If you haven't watched that one yet, the recording is on YouTube. I'd recommend watching it back just so kind of series ties together a little bit better. And we can link to it. We'll make them kind of easily accessible on YouTube anyway, and kind of group them together, maybe in a playlist or something. So this week then we're covering our second topic, which is harnessing kind of AI for your organization. Okay. And later on in the series, then we look at some really good use cases for it, kind of some of the things that it's really good at, like automation and cognitive insight in more detail. And we'll also look at kind of some of the challenges that you might run into when you're trying to roll this out in your product or in your business. We'll be doing basically one stream each week for the next 8 weeks. There's nine weeks in total here. We'll be at the same time every week. So if you're around, it'd be great to see you join. And yeah, feel free to ask any questions along the way. Last thing just to mention here is a bit of a caveat that when I'm saying AI, and maybe the same for you, Sammy, for the purposes of this live stream series, we're using it as in a very broad sense. It's kind of as an umbrella term, I guess. It's a bit of a catch-all, and there might be, some more technical minded people who might find that slightly frustrating, or that it's not as clear. But for our purposes, it just kind of keeps it simple. So while it's loose, we're trying to stay focused on the outcomes rather than the technical minutiae. That's kind of the purpose of this stream. So just to bear that in mind when we're talking about AI, it is kind of a very broad, quite loose term, for the purpose of this series.
Yeah, I find that liberating. As a technical person, I don't find it frustrating at all. I find it liberating, and I think that's very unique about this. Is it's more concerned about asking those business questions. So we at Thoughtbot, we get a lot of technical questions, often from existing clients or future clients, and sometimes there needs to be kind of a step back and saying, well, actually, do we need this? Do we want this from a business perspective? Which is why I think this course is brilliant.
Yeah, 100%, Sammy. Yeah, that's spot on. Exact purpose of it. And yeah, so as I said, we have AI in focus, and with Chad, who kind of covers some of those more maybe technical things. So definitely check out that if that's more your speed. And but hopefully this will still be useful to folks. Cool. So yeah, as I said, this week we're going to be looking at harnessing AI and how you can bring that into your business as well. And as you just mentioned, Sammy, like, we get a lot of questions from customers who want AI. There is lots of AI startups everywhere. Everything is AI this or that at the moment. And yeah, we get a lot of people coming in who want to harness AI. They want to have it. And they're wondering, how do I go about doing that? So that's kind of what we're going to cover today. The shock horror of this is that it's just like any other tool. You could plow straight in when you kind of start trying to bring on AI and start implementing it directly. But that's not really such a good idea. And there's a lot of risks basically associated with doing that. So some of the ones, like some of the maybe obvious ones and some less obvious ones, would be the costs, first of all. So if you just plow into kind of trying to bring in AI without having followed a good process, you will hit a lot of costs that some people might not be aware of, either development costs or hosting or maintenance. Those things can all be high. You're also going to have a bit of an opportunity cost. So basically the resources you're committing to this AI project means that you can't commit resources to another project. So something else won't get done, basically. If you dive straight in as well and just start kind of plowing ahead with AI, there's a risk that you're going to over-engineer everything, and that can leave you with either like a very bloated product or a lot of tech debt, maybe, or both, a combination. You may also then be adding a technology that just doesn't deliver any value, if you kind of haven't followed a good process or haven't really thought about this a lot in depth. And a kind of another consideration or another risk would be that if you kind of force your customers or your users to use this shiny new AI tool that you've got without warning, it can create some really negative kind of backlash, which you might have seen with WhatsApp recently. I know this was big in Ireland at the moment. They're kind of introducing, or with Meta, but Meta AI is now into WhatsApp, and there's a lot of kind of negative backlash around that. Happened with Google Gemini too, with Google searches and that kind of thing. So basically, ignoring these risks can make the launch of this cool new AI feature that you put a lot of work into go a little bit pear-shaped. So with those risks in mind,
I just get like that really grinds my gears. I don't know if I'm allowed to kind of, this can be a therapeutic session for me, but I'm seeing it all over the place. Like you mentioned, kind of WhatsApp have a big thing, but even all over Mac that I'm using daily, it's almost being forced upon us, AI, and that's not necessarily a good thing for your users or where they find value. I wonder, have you thought about like what is driving companies to do that? Do you think it's a fear of being left behind? Like, why are they doing that?
It's hard to know, Sammy, and without, I guess, being in the room with their decision makers, it's pure speculation on my part. Like some of it might be that it's a bit of, they might feel it's a bit of a race, and if we don't have it now, someone else will dominate that market space. But Yeah, it's hard to know, and maybe, you know, sometimes as well companies can kind of force through a change that users don't initially like, or there's a lot of initial backlash, and then people gradually get used to it. But certainly, I think probably the lack of control over it is not ideal. So as I mentioned, like Gemini on all Google searches now, there's no way to turn that off. You can do kind of workarounds so that it doesn't give you like an AI generated response at the beginning, and but it's not really that easy to do. It's not just a setting that you can switch on or off. So for me anyway, that would probably be a preferable thing if you are going to introduce an AI tool. Give kind of people time to adapt to it. But honestly, what's driving it, hard to say without being in those boardrooms, I think.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That's a really nice pragmatic answer, because I've gone down rabbit holes of just follow the money trails, and
Yeah,
there's an element of the people who are invested in it want to make you use it the most because it creates a return on their investment. But I know this is not that type of live stream, okay? So I'm going to be
yeah,
really
yeah,
sensible and not go down any rabbit holes.
Good. Thanks, Sammy. Uh, yeah. So that aside, if you put your suspicions aside, I suppose, if you are looking to bring it in, like what's a better process than just launching it on your users or just like committing loads of resources to it now? So what we would recommend at ThoughtBot is that you start off by focusing on the problem. Okay, that's your first step. So what's the problem you want to solve? What is it that you're trying to, you know, help your user or your customer out with? By focusing on the problem from the very beginning, from your first step, you're going to ensure then that you're not just using AI for the sake of it, but you're actually delivering value to the end user. Okay, so your first step is to focus on your problem. And your next step then is to identify your goals. So what does success look like? What is, you know, if this project goes really well, what do we hope to achieve or to happen by the end of that? So you're looking for, this is the thing, this is the outcome we want, basically. Kind of tied into that, then you'll want to pick out your success metrics, or maybe it's KPIs or whatever you're using. So how are we going to measure success? How do we know if we're getting closer to our goal? And yeah, how do we keep track of that along the way, so that when we're trying things iteratively, we see if they're kind of working or not working. After this, then we're going to look at our existing processes. Okay, so what is your current business process, or like what's the flow of your product? You look at that in detail, end to end, kind of every step. Okay, and then finally, we're going to see where AI fits into that process or into that product. Okay. Now I'm going to show an example of applying this process in a minute. But first, just to dwell on that kind of where AI fits, there's kind of three things that it's very good at doing currently. Obviously, it's getting better all the time at other things as well. But the kind of three areas we're going to look at in this live stream series are, first of all, oh, sorry, let's jump back. The first thing would be process automation. So what we're talking about here is basically streamlining repetitive tasks like maybe data entry or scheduling, that kind of thing. Okay, so it's good at automation. It's good at cognitive insight. And this is basically analyzing sort of really big or complex data sets to kind of uncover these actionable patterns, I guess, that might be really hard for a human to spot, or might be impossible for a human to spot with kind of the naked eye. And finally, then we've got cognitive engagement, which is kind of enhancing interactions with customers or with employees through kind of chatbots, digital assistants, those kind of things. And we'll be going through each of those in more detail. They'll each get a live stream, so don't worry about if this feels a bit overwhelming for now. And this is just like very, very high level for today. And yeah, we'll pick apart those in more detail in a while. And now we just look at an example basically of how to apply this process. So hopefully this will make a little bit more sense once you've kind of seen an example. Okay. So to do this, we're going to be using Thought Burgers, which is our delectable side business here at ThoughtBot. It's a new restaurant chain. It's home to the tastiest and most thought-provoking burgers. It's also entirely fictitious, and it's the brainchild of our colleague Jared. So thank you, Jared, for the idea. So this fictitious restaurant chain, okay, it's been a big hit in London, and we've opened up lots of branches across the city, and we're spreading further afield, the rest of the UK and out into Europe. We want to deliver these delicious burgers that we're making in our kitchens to our customers, but during rush hour, the deliveries can take up to 50 minutes, okay? And that's happening because we've got limited kitchen capacity on one side, so our kitchens are only so big and can only handle so many orders, and there's heavy traffic on the other side as well. So we've got those two things, and that's contributing to this long wait time. We think that's too long to wait, so we want to tackle that, and we're going to look at how maybe AI could help us get there. Okay, so the first thing following that process is to start with that problem. So as I said, due to kind of traffic and limited kitchen capacity, it means that basically during rush hour deliveries are taking too long. Okay, so our goal, or the goal that the team might set, is that we want to reduce that rush hour wait time by 30%. Okay, so we've got a problem, we've got the outcome that we want to see. In terms of our KPI, we're probably already tracking something along the lines of the amount of time it takes from a customer to placing an order to the time that the delivery is complete, so to the time that the customer gets the food into their hands, because we know that it's a problem. So we're probably already tracking this. And so this is probably going to be our key metric here, or our kind of key KPI that we're going to look to see whether we succeeded or not. So when we kind of introduce things iteratively here, if we see this this wait time going down, that's good. We know we're on the right track. If we see it not having any effect, maybe we need to change something else. Okay, so we want to see that reduction happen in the wait times. Okay, so by taking these kind of initial steps first, again, we're anchoring basically all our future efforts to customer value. This delivery time is valuable to customers, and we're anchored in that with our future things.
Yeah, I love that this doesn't mention AI. I think that is so important, because this is essentially saying, so I have had some people where that it feels like they do have a problem, but the goal is to use AI.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's like, how can we use AI, and then how can we market that we're an AI, powered tool or piece of software? And this is really focused on the real problem and the real goal and how we measure that. And it could be that the answer to this is we do this without AI, but we deliver the same value and we get the same rewards. Just perhaps it's going to cost less or be less complex.
Yeah,
So I think this is actually really important. Yeah.
Yeah, no, agree completely. Yeah, and a lot of times you will end up with kind of companies or people that kind of have a solution looking for a problem in some ways, or they approach AI like that. So, this is what I want to use, and now I'm going to look for a problem to apply it to. Whereas, yeah, it's much like, again, AI might be the perfect tool to solve some of these, or kind of tool or teammate, and we'll talk about this again later on in the stream. But yeah, like it might be the ideal thing to tackle that, but it might not. So like by focusing on the problem, you're guaranteeing you're going to deliver some value to your customer anyway.
Yeah, we had this with a previous client as well, where we did we offered them an AI design sprint. So something that ThoughtBot offers, which kind of coincides with the standard product design sprint, is more of an AI focused one. And I think what we said to them is, we're not afraid of the outcome to be that AI is not the right tool to solve this problem. So that's something which is really helpful for people if they're wondering, maybe we do want to use AI, but there's an AI design sprint which will take a lot of these things that you're going through and help to understand exactly what the problems are and if it will provide value.
100%, Sammy. Yeah, well said. Cool. So once we've got this step basically, and we've got kind of our goals and problems identified, the next step in the process was to look at our process basically. It's probably worth noting at this stage as well that, like, when you're doing this exercise, when you're looking at kind of your end-to-end flow, it can be an opportunity here maybe to change things if you spot inefficiencies or issues in that. But we're just going to ignore that for now, but just something to be aware of, I guess. So as Thought Burgers is fictitious, for now at least, we're just going to use this like really simplified version of what a delivery process might entail. Okay, so in this hypothetical process, we've got 8 steps. The first one is that the manager logs into an admin portal or some kind of a dashboard thing. They then schedule drivers for next week, so they're picking out their delivery drivers that are going to be working next week. The drivers get notified of their shifts, so they're told this is when you're working. The drivers then attend work unless they're sick, and that one might seem a little bit weird, but we'll touch on that later. And again, in more detail in the Cognitive Insights live stream, we'll look at that one a little bit more. Step 5 then might be the customer basically places an order for delivery. Step 6 is that we assign that order to one of our restaurants, to one of our branches. So, we've got multiple ones in London, so it might go to the nearest geographical branch or whatever way we decide we want to do that. Step 7 is that the kitchen prepares the order, so they get it all ready to go, cook the food. And step 8 then is that the drivers deliver the order. Okay, so this is our process. As I said, you can look at it and see if you need to move things around a little bit here. But for our purposes, we're going to assume that this is a good process that we've got here. So now we're going to try to map where AI can basically fit into these processes. So if you remember, we talked about the 3 things it's good at, which is automation, cognitive insight, and cognitive engagement. As I said, we're going to look at each of those in depth later, but just to demonstrate the process of how you might do this, once you've got your kind of steps laid out here, we would try to map basically these areas that AI is good at onto the process. So for automation, we might look at the scheduling side of things. Okay, so we might be able to say, right, automation would be a really efficient way to either reduce or eliminate these early steps. So around the kind of scheduling of orders, we can maybe take that off the branch manager's hands so that they can actually, deal with their kitchen staff or deal with customers or whatever it might be. So that might be a good use of automation. Maybe then we can use cognitive insights to, say, improve the order triaging. So around step 6 here, so around assigning the order to different branches. Or maybe we could look at using it kind of to more efficiently figure out how to schedule drivers. And maybe like even there, we'll notice that, drivers maybe with kids often get sick around September. If their kids are going into school, if they have young kids, they often pick up colds and that kind of thing. So they're a bit immunocompromised, I guess, around that time of year. So maybe we know that, okay, we need to scale up our drivers a little bit there. So cognitive insights can kind of help us pick out some of these things that might occur.
I wish it was only September.
Yeah,
Feels like the whole time, literally,
the whole time,
cesspit of germs in that place. I keep telling my kids, don't go in that sandpit. There's nothing good in there for you.
Send them in a bubble wrap.
And on the automation one, that's something. So from a technical perspective, I wonder if that could be possibly done without AI. I think, even potentially, we use Ruby on Rails as a tech stack, and that's something we could potentially do with code. So again, that's just really interesting to see. Like AI could do this automation, but it might not necessarily have to be AI in order to get what is valuable.
100%, Sammy, 100%. And next week, we will be looking at automation in detail, and there is a lot of overlap. There's a lot of benefits to general automation. It can be cheaper, easier, quicker. You can cognitively enhance it if you need to, but again, once you're kind of rooted in the problem that you want, or that you want to address, you'll kind of know, well, actually, regular RPA is going to do this fine for me versus like cognitively powered ones. So yeah, definitely there's options here like that. It doesn't have to be AI. You're just looking at where AI might be able to help, and then kind of delve into them a little bit more deeply, I guess. And then in terms of cognitive engagement, you might take 2 approaches here. So first of all, you might create a way for customers to check in with their order. So you might be able to talk to a chatbot and figure out exactly where their order is at. Maybe their burgers are ready, but their fries are still being cooked or something. Or you might be able to use it like as an internal tool, where a restaurant around step 6 might be able to like query why an order is being sent to a different branch rather than their one. Or similarly for a driver, they might be able to query like, well, why am I working these days and not other days? So it could kind of help you out with some of those things. Again, very simplified version of this. But basically, you're trying to find parts of your process that align well with what AI can do. Okay, that's kind of the purpose of this. And then just another thing to keep in mind, and we'll just touch on this. This will be the last section for today. Always try to remember, and you kind of pointed it out there, Sammy, previously, that like you should treat AI as a tool, like any other tool, or even as a teammate if you want to go that far. But it's not a product, okay? And you mentioned this, Sammy, that like a lot of companies fall into the trap of branding their products as like AI driven or AI powered something, in the expectation that that's going to wow customers, okay? And the bad news is it's not, unfortunately. It's not that simple. And Amazon is a really, really good example of getting this right. Okay. So Amazon's goal is to become Earth's most customer-centric company. Okay, that's like their kind of mission, I suppose. And AI can help them get there, right? It can help them achieve that goal. But the only mention of AI on their homepage is for like hair care products. So they just don't talk about it. Now under the hood, like this is a photo from one of the warehouses. Under the hood, they're running some absolutely incredible like AI powered systems. Their warehouses have these robots that automate a load of tasks. They're also using data like to provide a really personalized experience for an individual user on the homepage. So like your homepage will look different to my homepage. Your recommended suggestions will be different to my ones. You know, AI is powering a lot of that, or cognitive insights are powering a lot of that. They can even, I think we spoke about this before, Sammy, offline, but they can even identify like patterns in user data that allow them to do anticipatory shipping. So they can be basically sending a product to a hub or to a warehouse near you before you even buy it. So let's say like they've got a really good read on you, Sammy, and they know that you like to wear shorts in June, and they see that like denim is in style this year, so they're going to get a pair of denim shorts to like a hub near your house and then kind of promote it to you, and then we at TopBot will be blessed with the image of Sammy in tight denim shorts at work, and that's how the AI can help there.
I just wondering how you know about my buying patterns.
Yeah.
Like, where have you got this information from?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I've got a contact here. Who knows?
Yes, exactly.
Maybe I've just seen you stand up. Maybe I've just seen you stand up all too often on video.
Exactly. But yeah, it's such a good example. It's like you're so right when you think about it. Like they don't shout about it at all. They're using it, but it's not their main focus. And I love what you said, that AI is not a product.
Yeah.
I think that's also really, really important.
100%, Sammy. And like you might be wondering, like, well, why aren't they talking about it? Like, you know, like these things are really cool, and if you're interested in technology, like the way these things work are very, very cool. But the reason they don't talk about it is because their customers don't care. They don't really care that a robot like brought a package across a huge warehouse with incredible precision, or that the package they were thinking of buying, the denim shorts they were thinking of buying, is already in transit to a hub near them. They don't care about that. What they care about is when they buy something, it shows up at the door quickly and often, you know, within a couple of hours. Okay. So that's real customer value. And providing that helps Amazon get closer to this goal of being Earth's most customer-centric company. Okay. So yeah, it's just important to remember AI it's a tool or it's a teammate, but it's not a product on its own. It won't magically make your product more desirable, but if you use it to deliver customer value, your product will be more desirable. So that's kind of the kind of thing that I think sometimes gets lost in some of the AI hype. Yeah, that you should be using it to make your product or deliver value to users, and that makes your product more valuable. It's not inherently more valuable just because it's got AI in the name. So just to recap then, Sammy, on basically what we covered today, the process you want to follow if you're looking to bring an AI into your organization or into your product, you want to start with the problem. So again, that'll root everything that you're doing in customer value. You identify your goals. So what does success look like here? What are we trying to achieve? You then identify your success metrics or your KPIs. So this just helps us keep on track to make sure we're moving closer to that goal. You then look at your existing processes, and you kind of look at those end to end and in a lot of detail, and then you match AI capabilities to the various parts of your process, and that's kind of how a better way, or I suppose a better way to roll out AI into your product or into your service. And just remember to always focus on customer value, because that's where it's at really with AI. Any final thoughts on that, Sammy, or anything you wanted to go through?
Nope. I think that's great. It's been a pleasure to be here, and I think you've dealt with my derailing comments very well, and you've stayed on track, no matter how much I've tried to distract you.
No worries.
Yeah, it's great.
Cool. Thanks, Sammy. Well, thanks, Mina, for joining. Thanks, everyone, as well out there who's joined the stream. We really, really appreciate it. The recording of the stream will be available on YouTube shortly as well, and we'll link it to that first stream as I mentioned. We'll be back next Friday as well at the same time, and yeah, we'll be talking about all things automation next week. So you won't want to miss that one. It'll be hopefully fairly informative as well, and we'll keep it short and very light. So yeah, until next week, have a great weekend, and we'll see you all then. Thanks for joining.